The end of an era. My 20-year marriage crumbles. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm sharing a deeply personal story about the end of my 20-year marriage. It's a tough one, but I hope my experience can offer some perspective to others. My wife, who's 44, and I, 43, were high school sweethearts. She was a senior, I was a junior. Our journey started young and we navigated a long-distance relationship when she went off to college, and I finished high school and then a year of community, college. Eventually, we ended up at the same university, and from then on, we were inseparable. We got married the summer after I graduated, and honestly, for the most part, our marriage was wonderful. But recently, everything changed. I filed for divorce. After uncovering a long-term betrayal, she had been unfaithful with multiple men during those first 2 long-distance years of college, the revelation. The truth came out accidentally, through a friend of my wife's. Just after Christmas, we had a small reunion with some of her college friends. It was a relaxed evening of catching up and sharing old memories. My wife casually mentioned we met in high school, but didn't specify we were dating back then. One of her old roommates exclaimed how amazing it was that we met so young, had our wild college years, and still ended up together. I jokingly said I wasn't sure if my wife was as wild as I had been. That's when the roommate started to share a story, but my wife abruptly cut her off, saying she was uncomfortable. Her sudden reaction immediately made me suspicious. I decided to clarify, mentioning that we actually started dating in high school and stayed together throughout her entire college experience. An awkward silence filled the room, and the rest of the evening was tense. As we were leaving, another roommate pulled me aside. She strongly suggested I have an honest conversation with my wife about what really happened during her college years. The confrontation and confession. On the way home, that uneasy feeling wouldn't leave me. I asked my wife about what her roommate hinted at. She tried to blow me off, insisting it wasn't a big deal. I told her it was important for her to be honest, but she brushed it off again. Her dismissive attitude only amplified my suspicion. When we got home, I took a firm stand. I told her I was staying at my brother's until she was ready to talk. The next day, she came over, visibly anxious, and finally admitted to sleeping with several men during her first 2 years of college. She tried to minimize it, claiming it wasn't a big deal at the time because we were long distance and she didn't think our high school romance would last. This revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. I pressed for more details, a mix of anger and betrayal surging through me. She confessed to at least 10 different men, including at least 3 guys she had introduced to me as friends during my weekend visits, and 1 guy she was still in contact with. The decision to divorce. Hearing this, I was overwhelmed with anger, sadness, and profound betrayal. I knew our marriage couldn't survive this. I told her I wanted a divorce and would start the paperwork immediately. True to my word, I began the process on January 2nd. Her attempts to downplay her actions and dismiss my feelings only solidified my decision. This wasn't just about infidelity, it was about the lies and disrespect that had spanned decades. My family and hers are telling me I shouldn't throw away my marriage over a few mistakes. They keep saying everyone makes mistakes and that I should forgive her for our long history. But to me, this isn't just a few mistakes, it's a pattern of behavior. Cheating on me with multiple men for 2 years is not something I can overlook, no matter when it happened. The fact that she continued to maintain relationships with these guys, even introducing them as friends, is an unacceptable level of disrespect. Our children are 17 and 19, practically adults, and I believe they'll understand why I need to end the marriage. They've seen us as a loving couple, and I hope they realize my decision is about preserving my self-respect and integrity. The gaslighting and my stand, I feel like I'm losing my mind with the number of people telling me to overlook years of infidelity and decades of lies. Everywhere I turn, I hear voices urging me to forgive and forget, to salvage what we've built. They tell me I'm being unreasonable, that I should focus on the good times. But how can I when every memory is tainted by her betrayal? It's not just the cheating, it's the deceit, the lies, the continued friendships with those she cheated with. How am I supposed to trust her again, or look at her the same way, knowing what she did and how she dismissed my feelings? I keep questioning myself, wondering if I'm overreacting. But then I remember the pain I felt when she admitted her affairs, the anger and betrayal that surged through me. I remember the nights spent wondering how she could introduce me to those men, how she could maintain those friendships without a hint of guilt. This is a fundamental breach of trust that has shattered our marriage. Am I wrong for leaving? I don't think so. I'm fighting for my dignity, for my right not to be lied to or disrespected in such a profound way. It's not about revenge. It's about acknowledging that some lines once crossed cannot be uncrossed. I'm sharing this because my wife and some of her friends have been telling me it's normal to sleep with other people in a long-distance relationship, and that I'm the odd one out for not doing the same. I felt like I was being gaslit and needed an outside perspective. We live in a state with a waiting period for divorce, so I wanted some insight before things are final. While a few people agree it's common to sleep around in long-distance relationships, they seem to be a minority. During those 2 college years, we saw each other a couple of weekends a month. I lived about 3 hours away from her college, so while it was long distance, it wasn't across the country. We didn't go months without seeing each other. The 3 guys I met were introduced casually at parties. The topic of me being her boyfriend never really came up. One of these guys is still in our lives because he married a mutual friend from college. He's not a secret contact. After finding out about my wife's infidelity, I spoke to him a few times. He had no idea we were dating and has since blocked my wife out of respect for me. Some have questioned how her college roommates didn't figure out the timeline at our wedding. We had a very small ceremony with just close family in Texas. Then, a big party for friends on the East Coast. We skipped traditions where couples share how they met. Because of this, her roommates never realized we started dating before college. They assumed we only began dating when we lived in the same city. This explains their lack of suspicion. Therapy, realizations, and 2 pivotal points, I was open to therapy to save the marriage. I genuinely believed we could work through this. But her constant insistence that what she did was perfectly normal and that I'm overreacting was too much. The only time she showed any remorse or offered to reconcile was when I started the divorce paperwork. That brief moment of contrition quickly vanished, and she reverted to insisting she's right. This back and forth is why I felt gaslit. It seems so obvious her actions were a major betrayal, yet I had my wife and others telling me it was normal. Her dismissive attitude only added to my confusion. I tried to communicate how deeply her infidelity hurt me, hoping she'd understand. Instead, she minimized my feelings, treating them as an overreaction. It's like she's rewriting the rules of our relationship and expecting me to accept them. This constant invalidation of my emotions is maddening. I feel manipulated into doubting my own perceptions. Her refusal to acknowledge the seriousness of her actions, coupled with attempts to normalize infidelity, only deepens the rift. It's not just the cheating. It's her inability to recognize why it's a big deal. I'm at a point where I need to protect my own mental and emotional well-being. I can't continue in a marriage where my feelings are dismissed and my trust is shattered. Her lack of genuine remorse and insistence that I'm out of line make a path forward impossible. I'm not overreacting. I'm standing up for myself. Regarding our children, I'm not getting a paternity test unless they ask for it. I have no doubt they're mine, and even if a test showed otherwise, it wouldn't change how I feel. They will always be my kids. We were definitely exclusively dating. Dating culture was different 20 years ago. Exclusivity was the default. We had a difficult conversation about maintaining our long-distance relationship, and she was adamant about staying together. She even joked. Her dad would come after me if I cheated. When I suggested going to my senior prom with a platonic friend, she got very upset, showing how much our relationship meant. I skipped prom to avoid hurting her feelings. While we might not have explicitly used the word exclusive, the expectation of fidelity was implicit. I followed up with the friend who suggested I talk to my wife. She revealed that 10 guys would be on the low end and mentioned at least one pregnancy scare during those years, which I had no idea about. Honestly, the number of guys isn't the main issue for me. What truly matters is that my wife seems completely incapable of understanding why her actions were wrong and why I feel so betrayed. It would make a huge difference if she showed any genuine desire to fix this. But she hasn't. She consistently dismissed my feelings until she realized I was serious about divorce. Only then did she get defensive. But it was clear her concern was about the consequences, not my feelings. She didn't offer to fix things until I had already started the paperwork and notified her I had a lawyer. This reinforced my belief that she doesn't grasp the depth of her betrayal. Her dismissive attitude left me no choice but to move forward. I believe we can manage co-parenting. Our kids are older, and I've been saving for their college expenses for years, so custody and financial issues shouldn't be a major hurdle. We're both financially stable. I'm open to therapy if she's willing, but at this point, it's more about effective co-parenting and closure than saving the marriage. I've taken steps to separate. I hired a lawyer who drafted an intent to separate document and sent it to her via certified mail. This isn't a final divorce paper, but a preliminary step. The actual divorce will likely take months. For now, I'm staying at my brother's. Dinner with her friends happened on the 26th. That night, I went to my brother's to cool off. Over the next 4 or 5 days, we had multiple conversations. It became clear she didn't think she'd done anything wrong. If she had shown any remorse, I might have reconsidered. But her dismissive attitude left me no choice. I found a divorce lawyer, and we quickly filled out the standard intent to separate agreements, which were sent the same day. We're not legally divorced yet, but I've made it clear this process is happening. Update 1. Deeper discoveries and a shift after several counseling sessions with my wife and conversations with 2 of her former roommates. It became apparent that her roommates had suspected something was amiss back in college. They mentioned the situation seemed off and likely involved cheating. My wife had told them that we both had some wild times in college but had worked things out before marriage, so they never felt the need to bring it up. The roommate who pulled me aside at dinner was particularly uncomfortable that my wife had never discussed this with me and felt I deserved to know. Regarding the men she was involved with, it turns out that the introductions to some of these guys weren't intentional. One of the men she slept with ended up dating and marrying one of our mutual friends from college. This was the guy she remained in contact with. In our counseling sessions, my wife initially tried to shift the blame onto me, suggesting I had pushed her into those situations. However, she has since acknowledged it was wrong. When I visited her during college, she often planned for us to stay in her room, but I wanted to experience college parties. She didn't expect me to meet the guys she had been with, but they were often at these parties, and she felt she couldn't avoid it. While I still think it's incredibly disrespectful, it's somewhat less egregious than if she had intentionally paraded me in front of them. The whole situation has been a complex web of half-truths and omissions, making it all the more difficult to process. Her friends suspected but didn't intervene, and my wife maintained this facade for years. Most of our therapy sessions centered around why I see her infidelity as a significant betrayal while she doesn't. Initially, she rationalized her actions by saying that none of these men were in relationships with her. They were mostly one-night stands or friends with benefits. In her view, these encounters didn't qualify as a big deal since they weren't romantic relationships. My words, not hers. From my perspective, the nature of the relationships was irrelevant. We never agreed such behavior was acceptable. In fact, she had actively discouraged me from doing the same. The double standard was glaring and added to my sense of betrayal. As we delved deeper into this issue over 2 therapy sessions, and after she consulted with some friends, my wife began to see things differently. She now acknowledges that her actions were a breach of our trust. This new shared understanding has allowed us to discuss the situation more openly, moving from heated arguments to productive conversations. This shift gives me some hope for our future as co-parents. While saving our marriage feels out of reach, communicating honestly about our past can help us establish a healthier relationship moving forward, which is crucial for our children's well-being and for navigating co-parenting effectively. Why? I'm 100% committed to divorce. Two pivotal things came to light that made it clear I needed to end the marriage. First, about 10 years ago, we hit a rough patch and went almost 2 years without intimacy. She had mentioned our physical relationship was monotonous, so I tried to bring excitement into it. It turned out she was fixated on some intimate experiences from her college days, which she's not comfortable discussing. She wanted me to recreate those experiences, but when I did, it made her feel awkward and guilty because it reminded her of other men. The fact that she insists these experiences were meaningless, yet they still affect our marriage, tells me they were more significant than she's willing to admit. Second, she confessed to flirting with co-workers during business trips since the pandemic ended. Although she claims nothing physical happened, it progressed to the point where she went on a date with one of her male colleagues. For me, that was the absolute deal breaker. These revelations shattered any remaining trust. The first issue showed me that past experiences were still haunting our present, despite her claims. The second made it clear she was willing to cross boundaries again, even after everything we'd been through. These two factors combined made it impossible for me to see any hope for salvaging our marriage. We've informed our children we're getting a divorce. We explained it stemmed from bad decisions made during college that we couldn't move past. During the conversation, my 19-year-old, who's in college, directly asked if I had been unfaithful to my wife while she was away. This caught my wife off guard, but she bravely admitted to our children that she was the one who cheated. We've both agreed to refrain from sharing any more details to protect them. I reassured them that despite the separation, we both remain fully committed to being there for them. I emphasized we are in therapy to ensure we handle the divorce in the best possible way for our family's well-being. Furthermore, I made it clear that if they ever need to talk, whether with us or a therapist, they have my full support. Their emotional health is a top priority. We've begun discussions with a mediator. Unless something changes, it looks like we can part ways amicably. We're both financially stable, debt-free, and with older kids. Custody isn't a concern. The past. Few months have been tough, but I'm managing. I'm thankful my last post gained so much attention. It validated my feelings and pushed me to seek counseling. My 19-year-old daughter has had her share of difficult relationships. She's been hurt by boyfriends who cheated or left her. Given her past experiences, it's understandable why her initial thought might be that I was the one who cheated. Also, I was the one who left the house, which in her eyes might seem like an admission of guilt. Her experiences have understandably shaped her perspective. When cheating came up, my wife made it clear she was the unfaithful one. I'm not overly concerned about the narrative here. My wife hasn't said anything negative about me to our kids. Moreover, considering her recent admissions and readiness for an amicable divorce after just 6 weeks and 3 counseling sessions, it seems she was more prepared to move on than I was. This readiness makes the divorce smoother, but it does sting a bit to see her having an easier time walking away from a 20-year marriage than I am. I'm fairly certain she's already looking for a new partner. During our meeting with the mediator, she explicitly mentioned that we are still married until the divorce is finalized and that any infidelity before that date could jeopardize our amicable settlement. This statement struck me as ironic, given the reason for our divorce. Nevertheless, my soon-to-be ex was visibly annoyed when this topic came up. Additionally, I suspect that my current living situation, crashing in the guest room, might be hindering her prospects of moving on quickly. At the end of the day, I'm doing my best to come to terms with the end of our marriage. I've been attending therapy on my own, in addition to our couple sessions, to help me cope. I'm mentally bracing myself for the likelihood of encountering the coworker she dated again. However, I'm hopeful that I'll find a new place and move out before the divorce is finalized. If everything goes smoothly, we should be divorced by summer. I'll have my own place and she can date whoever she wants. Update 2. Finalization and moving forward, my wife and I have finalized our divorce, and everything is now official. We managed to have an uncontested, amicable divorce with minimal disagreements. Our lawyers collaborated through mediation, and a judge signed off on it a few weeks ago. The process was straightforward. The only significant complication was our 17-year-old, who was adamant about staying with me due to the deterioration of his relationship with my ex-wife. Initially, my wife resisted, ready to challenge the uncontested divorce. However, our son made it clear that she could either allow him a few months to process and rebuild their relationship, or force him to stay with her until he turned 18 and risk never seeing him again. Although I felt his stance was a bit harsh, it prompted my wife to back down. We moved forward with the agreement that I would have primary physical custody until his birthday later this year. Throughout this period, I've encouraged my son to remain open to mending his relationship with his mother. Despite her actions before he was born, she did care for and love him for 17 years. As the divorce proceedings advanced, I noticed my son spending more time with my ex-wife, which gives me hope that they will eventually reconcile. This has been a challenging time for all of us, but I'm optimistic that with time, they will rebuild their bond. In the end, we divided our retirement funds and investments equally, 50-50. My wife really liked the house, whereas I didn't, so she kept the house and most of the furnishings. To balance things out, she took out a mortgage to pay me back for half of the equity and half of the estimated replacement value of the furniture. Most of our other belongings were easy to split. She kept her car, I kept mine, and we divided. Our personal items like my music gear and her hobby equipment, along with clothing and personal effects. For anything that was harder to divide, we agreed to sell it and split the profits. Thankfully, we had already documented most of our valuable items and electronics for an insurance rider we added to our home insurance a few years ago, which made this process smoother. Things have been going well for me personally. Both of my kids spend most of their time at my place, and we've maintained a close relationship, which was my biggest concern during the divorce. I'm relieved and grateful that this bond remains strong. I've moved into a new house that I truly love, a place that feels like a fresh start. In a nod to my midlife crisis, I traded in my old minivan for a sleek Lexus LC550, a decision that has brought a surprising amount of joy. On another positive note, a woman at work, someone from a different department, invited me out for coffee. I was upfront with her, explaining that I'm not ready to date just yet. She was understanding and graciously offered to take a rain check, expressing her willingness to go out when I'm ready. This invitation was a pleasant surprise. She's incredibly smart, has a great sense of humor, and our professional roles are distant enough that there's no awkwardness at work. My ex and I are still attending couples counseling, but now it's focused on achieving closure for our marriage and ensuring we can co-parent effectively. These sessions have been invaluable for processing everything and maintaining a healthy environment. However, they've also confirmed that divorce was the right decision. It's become evident that my wife began dating as soon as the divorce process started, indicating that whatever love we had was already fading. I'm pretty sure the coworker she claimed was just a friend even dropped her off at our recent session. Surprisingly, this didn't really upset me, which is a clear sign that I too was ready to move on. In the end, healing from the betrayal will take time, but I feel like I'm making good progress. I can confidently say that the divorce was the right choice. I've shed more tears in the past 4 months than in the last 20 years combined, but for the past month, I've genuinely felt good about myself for the first time in a long while. I'm enjoying my newfound independence, staying busy helping my 17-year-old prepare for college in the fall, and looking forward to a coffee date with a smart, funny woman in a month or two. The journey through our divorce taught me the value of honest communication. Looking back, I wish we had been more transparent from the start. Honesty could have prevented some of the pain we both ended up feeling. It's a lesson I'll carry forward in all my future relationships. Most importantly, I've discovered the strength within myself to rebuild and move on despite the heartache. I've started to feel genuinely good about myself again. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories.